Welcome back to Amplified. Now, today marks 9 months since President Biden took the oath of office, and thus his administration was born. The administration insisted that it would address the priorities of supporters and help all Americans. Now, at this point, I'm sitting here wondering, what exactly has been born? The clock is ticking to finalize human infrastructure, voting rights talks have all but stalled, and the possibility of a government shutdown is looming. Is the Biden administration getting anything done? For more on this, I'm going to turn to my political panel. Writer and political analyst Jamal Simmons is in Washington, D.C. He is also a former advisor to President Obama. And Nelini Stamps is in York, Pennsylvania today, which is west of Philly. She is the national organizing director at the Working Families Party. Thank you so much for being with me, to both of you. Now, I want to throw that question at you because it's time that we do a little bit of an assessment on how this administration is doing. Jamal, what is and isn't getting done?
Obviously, there's more work to do, but I think if we take a look at the entire time of this administration, what we see is that there have been some things that were done. He got a huge COVID relief bill passed, the president did, $1.9 trillion. And in there was money to reopen schools, which those of us, who have little kids, you want to get them kids out of the house and back into school. They increased subsidies for Obamacare. There were increased child tax credits. 70% of Americans have been vaccinated since then. And of course, he got out of Afghanistan, which was a mess and a messy way to get out. But for the first time in 20 years, we've got troops out of Afghanistan. So for those of us who want to see wars end, you have to give them credit for actually pulling the trigger, so to speak, and getting out of Afghanistan. So there's a lot more to do. Like you said, voting rights reform, dealing with policing. There's a lot. Immigration is on the table. There's a lot to do. 2 big infrastructure bills to get passed. But, it's, what is this? Month 8. So month 9. So he's still got a little time left.
Nelini, I'm going to turn this question to you, too. And they're right now, literally going on in this moment as we speak, there is a bit of a battle between the progressive Dems and the moderate Dems over infrastructure. And that often is kind of an issue, inter-party squabbling. What do you think is getting done and how is Biden approaching it all?
Yes, I think, the Biden administration, as Jamal said, got incredible things done this year. The American Rescue Package was really, really critical with the child tax credit, all of the things that were in it. And I think that the administration has come short in certain things. The eviction moratorium did, unfortunately, did not extend. And we have lots of people who are facing evictions across the country. Unemployment benefits ended on Labor Day, the day that we celebrate workers of labor. And the idea that this bipartisan infrastructure package, the administration really wants bipartisanship. However, it has sent a really bad message to our communities right now who are suffering with a global pandemic. You have all white senators coming out with President Biden saying, look at this package that we all went into a room together and we all are presenting to you all. And they refuse. They refuse to actually just do some of what progressives are saying, which are not super controversial things. Progressives have met them halfway there. And so I think that right now, when the Senate and the House comes back, we really need to look at the folks who are holding it hostage. And a lot of that is our own Democrat, the leadership of some of the Democrats like Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema, who are blocking progress right now.
Let's talk about that because we're all watching Joe Manchin. Now, let's remind ourselves, nobody even knew who Joe Manchin was until he started to block things, right? To essentially block progress. No one really cared deeply about Kristen Sinema in terms of the national discourse, and she's not a household name. Now she is. What in the world do you think is going on with the private talks and negotiations between the White House and those senators in particular, but all the moderates who are kind of holding human infrastructure, the people's issues, our issues as people of color, hostage, I'd say, in the legislature because they just can. Do we know or even care what the White House is saying to them?
We found out, Aisha, on Election Day last year. I'm sorry, Mary, do you want to get in?
No, go ahead. You were going.
Okay.
I'm going to let you both jump in. Yeah.
What we found out last year on Election Day is that there was that white people who were really upset about white people not being the majority in the United States anymore showed up in droves to vote for Donald Trump still. And so when they showed up and voted, they're the ones who kept the margin so narrow in the House and in the Senate. And so now what you have is this completely split government in the Congress. And so there's not that much room. So every single one of these senators is playing the position of like, well, I'm the one that gets to make the decision because I'm the most important person. Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema are clearly at the forefront of that. And if you look at what's happened in West Virginia, it's clear that West Virginia is one of these states where white identity politics, prototypicality, the idea that they're the prototypical Americans and everybody else is just sort of an extra. White identity politics is driving this, and Joe Manchin is sort of trying to find a way to stay on the right side of these people who are obviously not in favor of a multicultural America being the ascendant America, while also I think he does still want to do some things that are progressive for people. He just is hamstrung between this. So the Democrats are going to have to beat this whole notion of who these voters are who showed up and kept the Senate and the House so evenly split.
I mean, and I think, yeah, I think that their white identity politics has to do with it. But I also think, and no, we know that the Chamber of Commerce, that big business has a lot to do with this. You have on record Sinema and Joe Manchin telling like chambers of commerce that they won't, well, in Sinema's case, won't vote for the PRO Act and not expand labor protections. You have ExxonMobil coaching lobbyists going to Manchin, going to Sinema, going to a lot of these moderates and saying, we do not want these climate provisions in the middle of having massive wildfires, in the middle of Hurricane Ida ripping through this entire country, both in the South and the Northeast. And so while I do think that there is race at the center of, it's always at the center of a lot of politics now, it is also business. And it's also a wealthy few who are telling these moderate senators to stop progress for the many working class people, including them white, including folks that we organize with in West Virginia, have been telling Joe Manchin to pass a reconciliation package and the infrastructure bill.
I'm so glad that you bring up who their allegiances and alliances are to, because I seem to remember that when the Texas Democrats were lobbying Joe Manchin and having a conversation with him on the Hill to try to move voting rights, to protect voting rights, he's like, kind of shrugged it off, and literally the next day went to Texas for a fundraiser with oil barons and Republicans that he raised a bunch of money for. So I wonder, in the couple of seconds that we have, Nelini, you were a part of the Occupy Wall Street movement. Do we see this, any progress on tackling the 1% and the big corporations that literally drive so many of our legislative outcomes?
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is a thing that a lot of people don't say about what the American Rescue Plan did. None of that money went to corporate America. And I think that that's why corporate America has doubled down to stop the passage and progress of this bill, because they didn't get any money in the American Rescue Package, and they're not going to get any money in this reconciliation and infrastructure packages. So corporate America feels threatened, and as they should be, because they made billions, if not trillions of dollars, while people like my cousin were unemployed for months. That's the America that we live in. And so I think that, what we're going to do is we're going to continue to organize and continue to say that it should be about the 99% and not the 1%. And I am hoping that over the next couple of weeks, that message breaks through. And it's not just about how many trillions of dollars, but actually what's going to work for working people.
So am
Aisha,
I.
my last
Jamal
point, just
Simmons,
before
Nelini Stamps.
I know you got to hop.
Go ahead, Jamal. Quick.
One thing I want to say, I do think a moment of optimism. I do think the Democrats are going to pass these bills because the alternative is oblivion. If the Democrats don't pass these infrastructure bills while they have the majority in both houses and the White House, I don't see how they have anything to run on that people will rally to come next year.
Well, we'll be watching. I would love for both of you to come back and talk to us about the status of the play again in Washington. Thank you, Jamal, Nelini.